Alright, this is my Akai MPK Mini Mark II MIDI controller. This thing has served me very well over the years. The only problem was I didn't treat it very well. I didn't have a carrying case for this. I would toss this in my backpack all the time. There was a bunch of other things in my backpack. It would bang around all over the controller, and then the keys would get bumped. That's why you can see some of them are a little misaligned. They're not quite level. And at the worst case, you give the keys a lot of flexion-based damage, and over the years that can make things break, which is why the D3 key right here popped off the keyboard. As you can see, that's the one that is missing. So of course, me being the very stubborn person that I am, I try not to throw things away. I usually try to fix them. Generally, this also creates less waste, but I'll be honest, it's mostly because I'm stubborn and I can't let things go. So I'll show you how I fixed it the first time. So I tore apart my keyboard, and the first thing I noticed was that the keys were in 3 distinct sets. You have your higher octave set, your lower octave set, then you have this one key that is all alone by itself and sad. Just like me. So I fixed this problem like how I fix all my problems, and that's with super glue. Okay, maybe not all my problems. If you use this to fix all your problems, it may end with a restraining order from your former significant others, so your mileage may vary. I just took super glue, put it on the end of the key, and slide the key back into where it was supposed to be, and held it in place until the glue did its thing. And that actually worked pretty well for about a year and a half, 2 years, but then unfortunately the key snapped off again, and I tried gluing it back into place again, and it didn't work. So I tried reaching out to Akai and their parts vendor directly to see if I could just buy a replacement set of keys for this board, because they still sell this board, and I got a response back that they do not sell individual parts for this particular board. Now fortunately for me, I have a 3D printer, so I could 3D model and print a replacement key. The issue is attaching it, because as I mentioned earlier, the keys are in one big assembly, so unless I 3D model and design an entire assembly, I'd have to find some other way to attach a single key that's a little jank. But if you look real close, you'll notice that there's a hole directly above where the missing key is. So if I 3D model something that could take advantage of that hole on the top of that assembly, I may be able to put a small screw right down through to hold the two pieces together. So after hours of measuring, 3D modeling, and mostly printing prototype test failures, we end up with this result, this single key. Now you may notice the similarities between this key and this key, namely of course that it has that little raised bump so that it can't come up off the board. It has a slightly raised up section so that it actually contacts the pad that completes the circuit, I think, and makes the sound. It has the raised edge, it has similar thicknesses, it has the hollowed out inside that the other key has, and this worked out just fine. However, you may notice that there is just one problem with the differences between these two keys. Can you figure out what it is?
That's racist!
What? No, it's not racist. The D natural key is white, so you can distinguish it from C sharp and D sharp, which are the two black keys that are right next to it. If you turn the D natural into a black key, there's a chance you might mistake the D natural for a C sharp or a D sharp. Do you realize how bad it's going to sound if you accidentally play a D natural when you're supposed to play a C sharp or a D sharp? Anyways, black filament was all I had at the time whenever I was prototyping, but I didn't want to buy white filament to just print a white key, because then the keyboard just goes back to looking how it always looked, and that's no fun. So I thought it would look pretty cool as if I used red filament so that it matches the frame of the keyboard, and also red's my favorite color, so why not? So I 3D printed a red key and installed it. Now it works fine. And, most importantly, it looks sick. Now, of course, this isn't really a perfect solution. The weight in the key doesn't feel exactly right. How hard you have to push it doesn't feel exactly right. But all those things, I would say, are close enough to be considered a good repair. I will, of course, leave the Thingiverse link down in the description below to the STL file for this particular key. Keep in note, though, that to do all the keys, you actually have to design your own for some of them, because there's like 3 or 4 different patterns of key design depending on what key on the board you're actually replacing. You also may have to remove a little bit of the plastic above where the keys are so that they actually fit properly. You want to make sure you are using the correct screws to drill down into the larger assembly. Alright, well, I hope you all enjoyed the video. I'll see you with a cover next week. See ya. However, the problem is that securing it to this board would be... So I fixed this problem like how I fix most of my problems, and that's with super